Wanted to now transition over and provide a update and perspective on SNIA as an organization. So next we will have an update from the SNIA chair on behalf of the board where the organization is, followed by an update from the technical council and the oversight work that they do for SNIA's technical agenda and topics and twigs. And please stick around after that. We want to take some time to recognize the volunteer of the year and the other in a few other areas where we recognize key individuals as well as groups that have done wonderful work in SNIA. I think personally every single SNIA volunteer and member deserves recognition. You get gold stars just by the fact that you understand that working with your competitors provides a benefit to your own company and to the industry to accelerate product development, bringing new technologies to market, and the education needed for those new technologies. And of course, what we've now come to expect as a default aspect of products coming into the marketplace, which is the interoperability of those products with other products in the marketplace from your competitors. That is an expected and baseline assumption from your customers who are buying your products. So I do want to congratulate all of them. Please do stick around for that. And after which we will conclude with a Q&A session where you can ask your questions of the SNIA leadership as well as share what's on your mind in terms of technology opportunities for SNIA. I hope you found the update valuable to date. Again, we will post all of the presentations this afternoon, and it will take us a day or a couple days to post the audio recordings associated with the content as well. Without further ado, I want to turn it over to our SNIA chair, Jay Metz, for an update on the organization overall. Jay?
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Would you mind going to the next slide, please? Excellent. So very simple outline of agenda of what we're going to be talking about today. Mostly what I'm going to do is just really give a summary of a lot of the things that we've been talking about. I don't want to belabor too many of those points simply because of the fact that you've been inundated with a lot of updates. Is what SNIA has been doing. But we are going to be talking about some stuff with the technical council, give some updates there. And one of my favorite parts of the session is to be able to give the awards and the honors. I'm very fortunate to be able to have that role and responsibility. The most important part of it for me, however, is going to be the member discussion and the feedback. This is the audience participation portion of the day, where the stuff that we've been talking about should have some sort of significance or meaning at some level to you. And we would like to understand what that is. We'd also like to be able to, I've got a couple of seated questions in the back to talk about what we're thinking about doing and how you as members would like to, contribute ideas into what directions we should go as well. So start thinking about how you'd like to participate and offer some ideas. Brainstorming, there's no such thing as a silly question. So feel free to ask anything you like. There's no such thing as a stupid idea because we'll be brainstorming for all kinds of silly things. Anybody who knows me knows exactly how silly I can get. So without further ado, please move forward to the next slide. So one of the things that I hope is coming clear as a result of the work that's been done that you've seen on today's call, and tomorrow's call is going to go into even further detail with a number of additional organizations, is that SNIA's organization is designed specifically to work together in the storage industry with companies and the corresponding supply chain. And as a result, we've been very influential in making sure that people can actually start to pick up some of the new items and do some of the new work that needs to get done. As Michael pointed out at the very beginning of the day, we have a number of technical working groups that not only do the work of 12 different organizations independently, but they also cross-pollinate and cross-reference each other. So one of the things that you may recall from last year, if you've been to a number of these summits before, is that the goal that we had at SNIA was to effectively circle the wagons and make sure that we were becoming more efficient. We were refocusing on accountability, and we were refocusing on simplicity. So you'll notice the pattern of the conversations that we've had has been directed and focused specifically on the idea that there's an impact that every group has, not only in the industry as a whole, but also to other groups as well. You'll notice, hopefully you'll notice that there is a lot of handshaking going across the aisle, so to speak. In other words, we've got CMSI, CSTI, you've got the networking storage forums, and the work that all of them are doing all relate to each other. So what we've been doing in the last year is making sure that each of these different groups can find a voice throughout SNIA, so that SNIA itself winds up having one voice to present to the industry. So that's the work that we were doing in the last year. And I think we've done a really good job of trying to get onto that path. And we're going to continue to do that moving forward. We've had quite a bit of successes when it comes to the standards development in particular. In the last 2 years, we've had 5 ISO standards approved. And we just, in fact, had to update that this morning because it was 3 and then 3 in progress. Now it's 5 approved and 1 still in progress. And obviously, we're working on, this is an ongoing thing. Now, obviously, when we do this, the idea is to help provide guidance, but also save some of the time and money that member companies might have to otherwise invest in these kinds of technical work. One of the things that we have been doing lately is re-examining how much of an involvement we're going to be taking with regulatory and product compliance. Well, not so much the product compliance, but the regulatory work in general. Wayne did a really good and thorough description of the work that's been going on with the U.S. government for the Energy Star ratings and the Green Storage Initiative, excuse me. But that is not the only place where regulations regarding data protection, storage, and the needs and concerns of our storage member companies are going to come into play. So while we currently have limited regulatory work being done, one of the things that we are thinking about doing and want to get some feedback later in this session from you is, where do you as members think that SNIA can actually provide the best external influence moving forward over the next 3 to 5 years? Generally speaking, we're now moving into a phase 2 kind of approach. A couple of years ago, I was talking about how I saw the development of SNIA moving in from a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 kind of a thing, where phase 1 was effectively that we were going to be, returning to ourselves and trying to make sure that we were becoming more efficient. We talked about this previously with, the development of a lifecycle committee to establish the rules for moving through the creation of a group all the way to its dissolution, as well as the communication steering committee, which is now taking a very strong role in synthesizing the communication across the board. And I want to give a huge, huge thank you to Scott Shadley, who has been the chair of that organization and did not have a clue as to how much work that was going to take. But he has handled it with complete grace and far more than I would, I think. But he's the one who has been, slowly going through all of our processes and making sure that they're consistent, that they're easy to follow, that they're communicated appropriately. And while there's still always work to be done because communication is never done, he's done a very good job with the work of Diana and Denise and others in the communication steering committee to do that. So I want to thank the communication steering committee specifically. I mentioned the Lifecycle Committee before. Very, very critical work that they've done. They've gone through line by line and determined how groups are formed, how new groups can be formed, how we could actually entice other types of technical work and initiatives to be formed that may not necessarily fall into the traditional storage category. So they are to be thanked profusely for being able to codify the process, whereas before it was pretty much of a grassroots effort. So we're going to be a lot more efficient thanks to the work of both of these groups in addition to all the others. So I want to personally thank, from the chair's position, Chris Leonetti and the Lifecycle Committee, as well as the Communication Steering Committee. So thank you very much. Now, phase two as a part of this is going to be looking at areas of where can SNIA now, with a unified voice, have even more impact and influence. We're talking about the influence in the industry, the influence on governments, the influence on regulations and policies. As Wayne pointed out in his presentation, if you're not in front of that wave, you will be under it. And sometimes a reactive approach is going to be very, very expensive. Now, we've got a lot of people who are absolutely brilliant on this call and in the groups. We've talked a lot about the volunteers who come in. Sometimes it's only a couple of companies that are pulling a lot of the different weights, and we can still get a lot done. But imagine how much we can get done if we actually have even more people who can contribute to doing even small amounts of work. Every little bit helps, as they say. So we're looking for people who not only have the ideas, but are willing to actually put those ideas into practice and find themselves in a 1 + 1 = 3 situation, where the sum is greater than the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. I almost had that right. Okay, next slide, please. So just as a summary of what has been going on, I'm not going to spend too much time here because we've already spent several hours going through each of the different impacts of all of these different groups. But it is worth noting that we have gotten new groups that have been joined in recent months, and they have been hitting the ground running. Zone storage just started, and the first meeting was yesterday. SDXI has been around for I guess a little less than, or a little more than, a year and a half now, so with some tremendous work being done. The release of the 1.0 specification is scheduled for this first half of 2022, and all of these get contributed into an overarching umbrella of education. And so the work that SNIA has done has been, I'm one of the things that I'm very, very proud of is the fact that the education that we have done follows by two very simple rules. One is that it's got to be vendor neutral, and the other is it has to be technology neutral. What does that mean? It means that effectively we are, as an education group, letting people get the information that they need to make intelligent decisions. Over and over again, I've heard feedback from viewers of our YouTube videos, attendees of our webinars, readers of our blogs, that they appreciate the fact that they're not being told what to do. They're not being marketed to in the education. If they want to know what swordfish is, they can go find out what swordfish is without having to be worried about being inundated with an advertisement. Same thing with SDXI, same thing with persistent memory. We take very seriously our efforts to educate people on how the technology works. At any given point in time, any webinar that's done by a group is seen by subject matter experts from no less than 5, sometimes as many as 20 different companies for any particular webinar. There's a lot of work, hard work, that goes into doing this kind of material, and it cannot be overstated how good that process is and the quality of work that we've been doing. Just an additional thank you from me as the chair for those who have spent considerable amount of time working on those webinars and blogs and videos, not to mention the SDC work, and the persistent memories. It's always a risk you're going to forget somebody in the list, and I do apologize, but I think that the quality of work that we've been doing has been on the rise and is continuing to do so. Next slide, please. Okay. Last but not least, before we go on to the technical council's update, I want to just give a quick idea of some of the general categories that we're looking for this upcoming year. Right. One of the things that is on this list, and you can read it for yourself, but one of the things that's on this list I think is going to be particularly interesting. We don't really have a lot of opportunity to talk about stuff that's kind of in development, but I'm really excited about the stuff that's going on with the new uses of storage memory. Right, so the computational storage is still very exciting. There's still a lot of work going on. The stuff that's going on with, the relationships with NVMe, the relationships with the other organizations and like DMTF, and there's a lot of work going on for brand new ways of using storage. where the memory semantics and paradigms and the storage semantics and paradigms and the physical layer it's all being modified and changed. It's like a Rubik's cube that is being turned into all different kinds of shapes and patterns. It's a very exciting kind of a time to be working in SNIA, I think. I think that there's always room for additional ideas and people to contribute for where we should be going, but at least we are now starting to work as an entire unit. I've used the metaphor before of a fleet as opposed to a flotilla. So hopefully over the last couple hours, you've been able to see that each of these groups are working in concert with one another as a SNIA organization, even though they've got very dedicated projects of their own that they're working on. It's still a part of a bigger whole, and we really would like to encourage you to consider joining as well, so that you can be part of that as well. Okay, so I'm going to take a step back and I think, Bill, are you going to be taking over this for the Technical Council?
I think Mark will.
Mark will. Excellent. Mark.
Okay. I think Bill could do some slides. Next slide, please. Thanks. So, who is the Technical Council? Well, we're made up of technology leaders from across the industry. We oversee the technical work of the SNIA that's done in the twigs. So we're responsible for creating and overseeing these twigs so that they carry out the technical activities of SNIA and guide best where to develop that work. Maybe it doesn't even belong in SNIA. Maybe it should be done in a different organization. And then we improve the technical standards, architectures, and software that are produced out of these twigs. We also prepare our own general industry white papers on technology relevant to storage. We've been doing that over many, many years. And we maintain a technical work group policies and procedures document, updating it and streamlining it so we can get the best process for quality content. We also develop and produce the SNIA Storage Developer Conference. We assist in the production of SDC EMEA and SDC India. And one of our most time-consuming tasks is to maintain the SNIA dictionary and accept new terms, get rid of old terms, update existing terms, and we're calling that a belly crawl that we're doing right now. So work in progress. We have created an on-demand PDF version of the dictionary. This is where because we're now have a more agile process and we're constantly every month adding new terms or revising terms, it doesn't make sense to do a PDF on a regular cadence because it's almost always out of date. So now there's going to be a button you push and everything in the online dictionary gets put into a PDF. That'll be really, really handy. We haven't actually printed physical copies of the dictionary for a while, but we do have some that we still continue to give away. We may end up doing another printing at some point when we run out of the existing ones. And we've done 161 SDC podcasts over several years. And we continue to do that. The podcasts that are coming out now are from the most recent September SDC. And we usually take the most highly rated, most actively viewed talks and put them in the podcast list. We also came up with 27 different weekend watches. This is where SNIA Marketing puts out sort of a mini playlist that would allow you to watch SNIA content in between football games or whatever on your weekend. And then the technologies areas that were being explored, there's the circular sustainability of storage products, DPU, accelerating time to productivity for storage professionals and students, and white paper on issues that data placement attempts to resolve, which is one of the latest things coming through other groups such as NVMe. Next. So we did create a new technical work group this year. It's the zone storage twig, which Bill and Dave talked about earlier. And that's been formed to facilitate a common industry understanding of zone storage, not just SSDs, but hard drives as well. And what host and device architectures and programming model are for this new type of storage. Next. As far as SNIA standards we approved this Swordfish Scalable Storage Management API, several versions of that, but the latest is version 1.2.3. Native NVMe off drive specification 1.1, Swordfish Scalable Management API version 1.2.2, and the TLS specification for storage system version 2.0. Next. We also had a number of successful ISO standards publications. SNIA version 1.8 R5 now is approved as ISO IEC 24775:2021. That was published back in April. LTFS version 2.5 approved as ISO IEC 29919:2021, published by ISO in July. Swordfish 1.10, which was approved as an ISO IEC 5965:2021, published by ISO on August 24th. And the CDMI version 2.0 will come out this year. It'll be 18726:2022. Next. We also have a bunch of documents that are out for public review. You can go access these even if you're not a member of the TWIG, even if you're not a SNIA member, and provide feedback to the TWIG or through our feedback portal. As Shyam said, the SDXI specification 090 Rev 1 is out there. The blockchain interoperability specification, as Olga said, is version 05 Rev 01. Computational storage architecture and programming model, version 08 Rev 0. Computational storage API, version 0.5. And various CDMI extensions and profiles, as I mentioned earlier. And then a massive amount of work by the SFFTA TWIG. I'm not going to go into each of these. I think there's more than one page too. Okay, so what if you have new technical work you'd like to bring into SNIA and form a TWIG? You may have something that you're pushing as a corporate API, for example, that you'd like to get more adoption across the industry. Well, you need to find two other SNIA companies that agree with you. We need support from at least 3 active SNIA member companies in order to approve the TWIG. And what support means is you have to include your intent to actively participate in the TWIG. It could be editor, it could be co-chairs, various things. And then we have a document that says that's the guidelines for SNIA TWIGs that takes you through sort of step by step what you need to do, how to do a charter, how to get your charter approved. What if they only approve you for a provisional TWIG? And so that's a very good guide to help people get started. But you can also just reach out to Arnold. Arnold's always really helpful in getting this new stuff over the finish line to where we have an active TWIG doing new work. And if you do have ideas for SNIA to get involved, please send it to Bill and I at tcchair@snia.org if you're a SNIA member. And it's a different address if you're not. Next.
Bill, anything else? Bill, anything else to add particularly on that last slide? If you go back one, Arnold, please. As you went through that process together with your current co-chair for the latest TWIG that was started. How was that experience for you? Anything you want to share?
It went very well. It was easy to do. We started out with 2 companies that had an idea we started forming that idea and some the paperwork. We went through the guidelines. We put together the charter and proposed work. We came in with 4 members, actually, the 2 of us and 2 others who were interested in being charter members, and presented it to the technical council, and we are off and running. It took us maybe 2 months once we had the group of people together that wanted to participate to finish off the charter and get everything started. But it is not a difficult process if you've got 3 or more companies interested in developing a technology that SNIA is involved in.
Thank you, Bill. Very helpful. Just to put things in perspective, I've been involved in starting up several technology special interest groups or actual standard bodies, and it takes 9 to 18 months to get one of those organizations off the ground. This is amazing the way SNIA is set up to help and facilitate this type of work. As you heard from Bill, in about 2 months, the group was up and running, actually having their first meeting to do technical work. It's a tremendous time and money-saving opportunity to accelerate and get your work done. So please feel free to contact Bill or Mark, Arnold, or myself if you have ideas and thoughts on new work in the industry that would benefit from standardization or collaboration on defining the specification or standard by multiple companies and multiple groups. We can help you through that process. And as you've seen, these technologies have the option to graduate all the way up to becoming ISO standards, which at that point they regularly become they're referenced by law in many countries, Europe and other legal entities and countries around the world reference ISO standards in their requirements that they roll out as part of their policies and laws. So a lot of opportunity for huge impact with minimizing your upfront investment and work to get this done. So please continue to consider SNIA as your home for storage initiatives and storage standards work in the future. Thanks again. Without further ado, I wanted to turn it over back to Jay on our volunteer and recognition awards for all this wonderful work and achievements in 2021. Jay?
Helps if I'm off mute. Excellent. All right. Well, this is the part where we actually get to, put the slides where our mouths are. Next slide, please. So there is no question in my mind that Rich Brunner deserves this Volunteer of the Year award. He's done some amazing work, put in a lot of hours to get clarity for the contributions to strengthen the SDXI 1.0 release. He's been generating multiple revisions of the documentation to make sure that it's not only compliant but also readable, and that the pretty pictures actually match up with what we want it to do, what do we want it to say. And so he's been doing an awful lot of work. He's been very patient through all the feedback that's been given with the revisions, and his contribution is greatly appreciated. And for that reason, he has gotten the Volunteer of the Year award for SNIA for 2021. So major thanks to Rich, and hope you'll join me in congratulating him on that. So thank you for that. All right. And we can't really do the standing ovation, but we do have the chat window, so you can put that in there if you wish. All right. Next slide, please. All right. So the award for the exceptional leadership goes to Vera Koleva. I hope I said your last name correctly. I apologize if I didn't. She's taken on significant responsibilities within the SFF Twigs transceiver subgroup. She's always willing to help and has supported all the group's activities in 2021. And she volunteers as editor anytime anytime an editor is needed, and is the reason why most of the projects get completed. So please join me in congratulating Vera for her award for exceptional leadership. Thank you so much. Next slide, please. Now, this doesn't really surprise me at all. I've worked with KK before, and so KK routinely actively participates in both the management twig and the NVMe over Fabrics twig meetings. The management NVMe over Fabrics twig meetings. He's instrumental in getting upgraded equipment in the lab, as well as donated equipment to SNIA in the past. So, the unsung hero is a nice way of showing the fantastic work that KK has done behind the scenes. So thank you very much, KK, and really appreciate it. I'm glad you're still you're still working here at SNIA. It was great we used to work together when I was back at Cisco. All right. So the new contributor of the year is going to somebody who doesn't have a name, but it's Oscar Pinto. So Oscar has joined the computational storage group. I think we're probably going to have to fix this slide. But Oscar, yeah, Oscar stepped up and has led a lot of the development for the computational storage API. It's not there, but he comes from Samsung and has provided the basis for the API and has completed numerous updates to the API to help the group move forward. And his work has always been, much appreciated and stellar. So thank you so much, Oscar, for jumping in with both feet and putting so many good work together. There we go. All right. Next. And okay, it's a build slide. That's what's going on. All right. So the excellence in education goes to Tom Coughlin from Coughlin Associates. Tom has been a regular contributor to SNIA Education. He's been doing this for many, many years. He regularly presents the industry updates at SDC. He's a regular and a fixture that I think we've all come to rely on. He's also delivered well-received industry updates to the GSI, the Green Storage Initiative, and his regular contributions in Forbes often include SNIA references and SNIA news. So fortunately, we're not far from Tom's from Tom's thoughts either. So really appreciate all of the support that Tom's been given, both inside and outside of SNIA, and definitely deserves the Excellence in Education Award. And sharing the Excellence Education Award, or maybe it's part two, is John Kim. John is, as you've already known, he is the chair of the Networking Storage Forum and is a prolific contributor. John is also one of those people who always steps in to help no matter what the need, what the is. He's always got a way to come up with a calm, reasonable, rational way of solving problems. And quite frankly, he and Alex and Diane and all the people at NSF have really put the bar at a level that's worth matching. I mean, it's fantastic. He's contributed webcasts for revving up storage for automotive, the SAN overview, how fiber channel hosts and targets really communicate, storage technologies and practices ripe for refresh, the security of data on NVMe over Fabrics, the armored truckway. I think that was actually one of John's titles as well. And the great storage debate, hyperconverged versus disaggregated versus centralized. So John deserves this recognition just as much as anybody else does for all the really fantastic work that he's been doing. All right, next slide, please. All right. So the significant impact by a previously existing technical work group force. I think I should be wearing like a, I don't know, a Chanel dress or something when I'm doing this. It's almost like an Oscars thing. But computational storage twig is the winner this year. And this computational storage group, I think I remember seeing that there's 52 members in the computational storage group right now, and there is a lot of contribution going on. The calls are extremely active, and it's a tough fight because all of the twigs are working extraordinarily hard. But that just makes this particular award all the more sweet because they have been doing quite a bit of impact. All right, next. The group of the year, SDXI, woo! So SDXI has gone from 0 to AIDA in a very short period of time. As I said, the 1.0 version is due around the corner. Rich Bruner was the one that has been, got the contributor of the year, the volunteer of the year, for the work that he's been doing with the SDXI twig. It is one of those groups that is exactly where we want to take SNIA in the crossover between memory, storage, compute. The world is changing in the way that the technologies are using these different devices and technologies. And groups like SDXI and computational storage before it and others are refocusing the work that's being done to not just solve a particular problem, but also look forward to new problems as well. So major congratulations to the group of the year for SDXI for the work that they've been doing. Major kudos for all that hard work. Thank you so much. And last but not least, this is a new and unfortunate, but I think it's responsible addition to the update. Roger Cox was not a member of SNIA. Jay Neer was a member of the SFF. But I think it's important that we recognize people who do contributions in the storage industry. It's a small world that we work in. And to be honest, we don't really get to sing the praises of people who have done major contributions too often. And when we lose people who have done major contributions, and it's sad that we could only do a short period of time to pay respect to people that we've lost last year. I think it's important that we, do take a moment and recognize that the contributions to the work that we do on a regular basis by individuals who have unfortunately left us needs to be recognized, and that's why we're doing that today. So Roger worked for Gartner for 22 years. He also worked as a RAID product manager for Adaptec before that. He's been in the storage industry for a very long time and was very influential on a lot of the trends that were going on with storage. Jay Neer, I worked with Jay closely when I was at the Fiber Channel Industry Association. Jay was the secretary of FCIA, but he was also a board member of STAY, the SCSI Trade Association. He has several contributions to SFF. Many of the documents that SFF put out were edited by Jay. And quite frankly, of all the tasks that SNIA has, being an editor is probably one of the hardest and most thankless. So, for the work that he has done to SNIA in particular, he definitely is going to be missed. Plus, he was also just a really great guy. So, before I move on, if anybody has anything that they'd like to share or say about Roger or Jay, you are more than welcome to speak up. Rochelle, you got a hand up. Is that intentional?
No, that was supposed to be a reaction and waving at the awards. Gotcha.
Okay, gotcha. So if anybody does want to say anything, you're more than welcome to take yourself off of mute. I'll wait just a second to see it. Okay. Well, thanks for that. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the part where I really do wish for you to take yourself off mute. I'd like to get your thoughts on things. And I'm going to start it off with the next slide, please, by throwing in a couple of ideas to start with. So I've already talked a bit about the crossover between memory and storage, and the semantics and the paradigms that are going to be adjusted. There's conversations going on inside of SNIA and other standards bodies about what that actually means and how we're going to move data between these different places. STXI is a data mover, for example. So these are things that we're trying to focus on currently. One of the things that PK brought up and Thomas was bringing up, we had to do with security and privacy. And Eric's fantastic presentation about the work that still needs to be done is a key consideration. I think one of the things that we can probably do to stand to do better actually is entice people who are security aware to contribute into SNIA wherever possible. We still rely very heavily on a small number of people for the work, and we do need to get a little bit more momentum in that, I think. And then since we're also focusing on going externally to other groups, whether it be governmental groups or other industry associations, there's affiliations and alliances that SNIA doesn't have that we probably should. Now, part of this, of course, is that alliances really are driven by the people who can contribute to both organizations. So obviously there's a barrier to entry, or at least a dependency to entry, that we need to pay attention to as well. And then finally, this is one of the things that I think is probably where my own personal eyes keep going to on the horizon, right? When it comes to data protection, data privacy, data rules and regulations, the conversations that go on in the various government bodies could have or do have profound implications on us as an organization, as well as the members of us as an organization. So the question really is going to come into what kind of relationship is SNIA supposed to be having in order to be the most effective or efficient? Now, there's a variety of opportunities on the table. Not all of them are, not all of them things that can be done immediately. And some of them aren't things we can do at all. But there may be things that we can do given the proper preparation. So some options are, there's lobbying, there's being friends of the court, where, SNIA produces technical documents to help some of the regulators when they're in consideration. There's a number of different things. So these are the kinds of things that we're looking at towards the future. This is more the strategic kind of approach. And at this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and stop talking.
I know we're at the top of the hour. I appreciate and value the conversations, the thoughts that were shared. I know that we couldn't get to everyone, and many of you were perhaps a little shy on the unmute button. We're going to look at the chat and anything you submitted in there, although that seems to have slowed down as well. Please do reach out to myself, executive director at SNIA.org. I'm a simple email address that you can reach, or Arnold, or Jay as the chair, and any one of us in leadership position. Share with us your thoughts. Share with us the challenges that you see out there. I hear a lot of things on file systems as a bottleneck for scaling storage solutions. And let's see what we as an organization can do together to help address those challenges and make storage more consumable and continue to grow for all these explosive data analytics and data collection services that are happening, being driven by IoT, by 5G, and everything else out there. It's been a pleasure to host you today. Thank you for all who attended. We look forward to a fantastic year. We look forward to seeing you in person as well. I hope you were able to recognize some of those faces before the names came up on the awards. That was the best, if you still remember and can identify those folks. And really do appreciate and value everything that you, down to the last minute, that you contribute to SNIA in your volunteer time and in working together to address these common issues and challenges that we have. Thanks again. Look forward to, please check the website. We will post the content this afternoon and the recorded materials within a couple of days after. Let us know your questions and feedback as well on the event and format today. I hope you enjoyed it and it was highly valuable to you. Thanks again. Have a fantastic rest of the day. Remember the SMI and CMSI sessions tomorrow. Please attend those for more in-depth on their work, and look forward to a fantastic year in 2022 with all of you and all your contributions supporting SNIA as an organization and the industry. Thanks again. Have a wonderful day and an excellent year.